Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Rayceen Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is the queen of the shameless plug and the goddess of DC, Rayceen Pendarvis. Hey, Rayceen.
Bam! Hey, love. Greetings and salutations, all.
We are so excited to welcome the one and only Zachary Parker here with us on the Team Rayceen YouTube channel. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, I'm glad to be here with you and celebrating
Awesome.
8 years. That is the institution of Team Rayceen. So,
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today. And congratulations, by the way, on winning your primary and being the presumptive nominee. And so we're going to start off with that. Introduce yourself to everyone and tell them a little bit about your background and experience.
Thank you for that. I am Zachary Parker. I am the Ward 5 Democratic nominee and presumptive next Ward 5 council member. For those that may not know why we say that is because DC is a Democratic town. And so if you win the Democratic primary, although it's not guaranteed, it is presumed that you will go on and be successful in the general election. I currently represent Ward 5 on the State Board of Education, DC's only duly elected educational body, and just really honored and humbled by this opportunity to continue representing this community that I love.
Thank you. And it's such a pleasure to have you here with us as the general election is looming, fall is coming in and all of that. So I'm sure that you are looking forward to moving from presumptive to elected.
Yes.
As you move into that, how are you feeling and what are you looking forward to?
I'm feeling both the weight of this responsibility, but also very humbled. It was a tough primary race in Ward 5. We had 7 candidates. Neighbors had a lot of choices, and folk were giving it their all. And I came out on top, and I don't take that for granted. And things that are top of mind for me, and we discussed this before, is just making sure that I can build out a council office that is responsive to neighbors' needs, constituent services, making sure that when someone calls or emails, they get a response. Also making sure we build what I call healthy communities, but is really about creating a baseline or a shared quality of living across our ward and city, regardless of zip code. And that currently is not the case. We know in Ward 5, there's some neighborhoods that are well resourced. There are $1 million dog parks, grocery stores, and amenities. And then there are others that are cut off from basic resources and are treated like dumping grounds and for industrial land. And then that last thing, we all know DC is changing and the genie is out of the bottle in a sense. And so as DC grows in its prosperity and it continues to change, how can we make sure we do so equitably so that those who have long called DC home, those who add to the flavor of this city we all love can stay and thrive here. So those would be some of the things I'm really focused on in this journey ahead.
And that's so important for someone who is a long-term resident of Ward 5, an advocate, former ANC commissioner, and hellraiser.
Yes, yeah.
Now, you know that gentrification is a big problem across the country, across the nation, and especially in Washington, D.C. And it seems that Ward 5 is being hit very heavily. And it seems like we are being overwhelmed with the condo explosion. And those who are longtime residents, such as myself and many of my seniors, feel as if we're being displaced. So how can we find and work together with many of our activists, many of our council members, and as a soon-to-be elected council member, what would you say to residents such as myself that feel as if we're being displaced? How can we find that bond between the old and the new?
Yes. First, I would say it's not just a feeling. Folk are being displaced. More than 20-some thousand Black and brown folk have been pushed out of the city, many of them native to DC. In fact, Ward 5 has within it 20001, the fastest gentrifying zip code in the city and one of the fastest gentrifying zip codes in the country. as well as DC has gone on record of being one of the fastest gentrifying cities in the country. And so there are many things that we need to do, but we first have to recognize that it is a problem. And I, like you, Rayceen, acknowledge that it is a problem. We welcome change, we want development, but at the same time, that should not come at the expense of folk who have long called DC and Ward 5 home. And I think there's few things that we can do. One is about expanding affordable housing and truly affordable housing for those on the middle of our economic range to our lower economic system, making sure that they have outlets and resources for housing, making sure that we extend a lifeline to our seniors, many of whom bought their homes for a fraction of what they're worth now, but that are also on fixed incomes oftentimes, and need help to either fix up their house or just grapple with the rising stress of taxes on their homes, but also making sure that we hold the city and our agencies accountable for delivering for communities, like I was saying before. So a community like Brentwood, that I know is near and dear to you, Rayceen, gets its due. And right now, many in that community feel as though it's a dumping ground. And so my job as the next council member is just to make sure that I take the concerns of Ward 5 residents and hold district agencies accountable to deliver as we continue to grow and advance as a city.
Certainly. You have this way of connecting with the constituents and, really making them feel at home and really making them trust you. And we saw that, in the primary, which was, a long, hard fight, and one of the primaries that was most talked about in the city. Yes. And at the end, you overcame and had the largest margin of any of the primary victors. So how does that make you feel, knowing that, and especially with what, a tough race this Ward 5 primary was?
It's humbling. And I honestly am proud. I often say I know no better than Ward 5, and I mean it. I'm also very proud of Ward 5 because there were many that were betting that Ward 5 neighbors would give into the division, that they weren't ready to elect an openly gay council member, and all of these other things that we were all hearing. And neighbors showed that we're better than what divides us, and we want to move forward, and we want leadership that's going to bring us together. But I also, as I was just sharing, feel the weight of this responsibility that neighbors are desperate for a change, and they want leadership that's going to be responsive and that's going to actually deliver on the goods. It's not enough to just talk about change. We actually have to deliver on it.
That is so important. Yes.
So, on so many levels. And, for many of our residents who are understand the importance of change and see change and believe in change and believe, and how your team was so able to connect on, and how your team was so on believing and understanding what grassroots looks like. And,
yes.
And your team, I commend them because they were on the ground running. They were everywhere. They were at the subway. They were at the restaurants. They were at the churches. They were everywhere. I mean, everywhere I looked, your folks were there representing and hearing and understanding the concerns. And they took the time, even if you weren't around, they listened to
Yes.
I would watch them interact with people. And sometimes I would just act as if I did not know you. And I would have a plethora of questions. And they were like, bam, bam, bam. Every answer I gave them, they were on it. And it spoke to the volume of how they were able to connect to community, and that why that gap was so big when you won.
That's right.
And that shows that you understand the importance of teamwork. It is just
Yes.
not you, it is Team Zachary behind you and all of the people who make everything work. And you're showing that if and when you get into office, that you have in place a team that understands the importance of listening, working, and reaching out and connecting to community.
That you couldn't have said it better. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I could not have done this by myself. And it really is a group of folk that are not just there for an individual or for an office, but because we believe in something greater, building a DC that is more just, And that is what was most inspirational. And again, it was a tough race, but I'm proud of the race that we ran, one with integrity, without like rolling in the mud, and just sticking with the issues and focusing on Ward 5 neighbors.
I love that. Zachary, tell me some of your favorite things about Ward 5 and the people that you are about to represent.
Yeah, so Ward 5 is home to Rayceen. And so that is always top of the list. But we also have just a little bit of everything for anybody, whatever your interests are. If it's working out, we have the MBT. We have restaurants that are top notch and will rival any restaurant in the city. I talking about Chuck Brown Park and just what that represents for me. It represents summer. And so we have Chuck Brown Day, but also a number of other things that are going on in and around the ward. And so for me, Ward 5 just represents the heart of the city. And that's, again, why it's such an honor to represent Ward 5 on the council.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we do want to remind, everyone that is watching that the election is coming up. And so with the election coming up, we want to make sure that everybody is registered to vote. We want to make sure that everyone is aware of their voter status. So if you want to go ahead and do that, you can go to headcount.org to pledge to vote, check your status, and register to vote. And, always keep yourself informed and updated about what is going on in that sphere, especially here in the District of Columbia. And Zachary, how can people find out more about you, find out more about your campaign, and keep up with everything that you've got going on?
Yeah, you can visit our website, ZacharyForward5.com. You can follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at ZacharyForward5. We provide regular updates via social media. Via the website, you can sign up for our newsletter. We have a weekly newsletter blast that goes out with all things Ward 5 and what we're doing to advance towards November and beyond. I would also just say, whether you live in Ward 5 or not, this is not the election to sit out. There is so much going on in our city. There are rights that are at stake. Even outside of DC, I would just urge people to sign up, volunteer, get involved, lean in, donate, just do something that's going to really make a difference, because we cannot have people of goodwill sitting on the sidelines while others are trying to dismantle our government, take away our rights, and or would like to advance division. So my urge is get involved locally, nationally, and make your voice heard.
Awesome. That is so important. And of course, we're going to have the link, the website link in the description below so that our viewers can go ahead and check that out. Zachary, thank you so much for joining us today. It is always a pleasure. Thank you for being gracious enough to join us. And we look forward to the general election coming up, and we wish you much success.
And when all of this politics stuff is done, let me know when you're ready for another co-host. Maybe we can make it
of course. Yes, certainly. We look forward to that. Thanks so much for joining us today. To all our viewers, if you want to follow me, of course, you can follow me at It's Krylios on all forms of social media. And to keep up with everything Rayceen Pendarvis, go straight to Rayceen.com for all the updates. And of course, for all things Team Rayceen Productions, you can follow us at Team Rayceen on all forms of social media. Click around this YouTube channel, check out our other interviews, vlogs, forums, and more. And while you're at it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.